Got two hands here to review. Hand number one is pocket sixes. This is a 10 and L table. We are um, full ring at this point. So we have cutoff is going to open raise, and open raise is kind of small at 2.2. When we look at his stats, out of 7 hands he's played, 67% of them raised, 33%. We don't really have an idea of what kind of hands he's raising with, but we may be able to infer general hand strength based on this size. So he could have raised to 3, could have raised to 4, in position, but he chose to basically do a slightly larger than min bet size. So I think most people would probably raise larger with their premium hands, especially in this position. So jacks plus, ace queen, maybe even king queen suited. They're looking to capitalize on their hand strength, and that means then they're going to raise smaller amounts with their speculative hands. Question is, how wide a range do we have? Well, we're at 36%. That's about as best we can do. He's played 67%. He's coming in for a raise. Seems like he's raising about half of the times that he plays. So this is probably okay. It may be a little bit wider with some of these offsuit hands. Could be like all of the suited queens as well. So we'll play at that. Sixes, it's a pocket pair, but sixes is going to be a speculative hand here. And against this range, I do think now I should probably raise it. Am I worried about these other players coming in? Well, as you can see, I don't have a whole lot of information on any of these players. I've got 74 hands with this player, 35 with him, but everyone else is basically an unknown. So just going on general feel, there's a chance that if I call, one of these players is going to call behind, which, I mean, isn't a terrible thing because I do have pocket sixes and I'm looking to hit a set and then take someone's stack. However, just going against this player, he's loose. He plays a lot of hands, did a min raise. I think this could be a good spot to go ahead and 3-bet, and you will likely pick up the pot. Will likely pick up the pot because I think when we 3-bet, he's going to dump a lot of these junky hands, the 2 gappers, maybe the 1 gapper, most of the suited kings, probably a lot of the offsuit cards. And even if he does call, if an ace or a king flops, we could easily fire c-bet and likely pick it up at that time. So I think being aggressive here with pocket sixes is fine. It is going to increase variance, but it would give us a bread and butter situation, and we want to target those. So I didn't do that. I just called, and both of the blinds called, and we see a flop. Ace of spades, 9 of hearts, 3 of hearts. Out of position, he has bet 50% of the time, so 1 out of 2, he has made a c-bet. I think with this favorable flop, probably, in a lot of ways, it fits his pre-flop raising range. I think it's less strong. His range is less strong because he only raised 2.2. But I think we can. I do think c-betting makes sense. So when he c-bets, I think I'm gonna probably say he's probably gonna do it with his pairs, flush draws, maybe 2-card backdoor flush draws, maybe his gut shot draws. His no made hands are huge group of them. I think we can be a little bit tighter. Still 64.9% of hands, which you'll see his top pair, since he has all of these aces, is pretty large. So I think we could probably fold this and get away from it, especially his bet sizing. So he bet pot here. He's it looks like he's trying to get a fold. And if anything, maybe he has the ace and he's trying to get the fold from the hearts because he's afraid of the hearts. So, we called, speculative hand, hoping to hit trips. We missed. We didn't hit it. I think it's perfectly fine to fold. The other thing to think about is he only has 27.5 big blinds. So if I go ahead and raise it, or if I call hoping to bluff, it's not really a deep stack. He's not going to be risking a whole lot of money to get to the river. So I think this is a spot we probably just go ahead and fold. I think that's also why I would have preferred I think that is also why raising pre-flop would have been a bit better, because we're threatening him his stack with that raise, and he may just go ahead and fold and give us the pot. So I didn't do that. I actually called, so I think that call's a mistake. And then an 8 of club hits. We still, all that we have is a pair, and now villain 23 checks, and that's kind of interesting because he could have continued betting. He could have gotten all in with his aces, most likely scenario. So what does he have? I think a set would probably still bet. I think if he hit 2 pair, I would think he would still bet. I think top pair maybe check now, and all of these, just 1 pair hands would probably check. Flush draw would probably check. Open-ended straight draw would check. Gut shot probably check, because he's loose and so forth. So I think he can check all of those. And the question is, should we bet or should we just check behind? Well, if we bet, what are we hoping to do? If we bet, we're hoping that these weaker pairs fold. So we're at 78.8%. So that's what he is starting with. At least I think he's starting with this checking range. I do think he's going to probably, if I bet, he's probably going to fold those pocket pairs, below top pair, middle pair, weak pair, but he'll probably call the flush draw, open and a straight draw, gut shots. That seems to be how players play. So 45.6 out of 78. So we'll say 45 out of 79. So based on his checking range, he's going to continue 57% of the time, which means he is folding, 43%. So I do think a bet is going to be good here. What size bet? We can easily do 2/3. We're going to get the I think we're going to get the fold equity needed for a 2/3 size bet. Are we going to get it for a pot size bet? Yeah, I think a pot size bet maybe. We might get it too. So if we do pot size bet, we're looking at betting 17.7 to win 17 points. Let's clear that out again. 17.7 divided by 17.7 times 2. So we need him to fold 50%. I think pot is probably way too much. 2/3 is going to be about right for us to bet, to show a little bit of auto profit. And I did do about 2/3 pot, so I'm happy with that. Although I'll say we still shouldn't be in the hand. And he calls, so I think he's calling top pair, flush draw, maybe open and straight draw, gut shot at this point. He calls. King of spades comes. He is going to check, and now it's up to us. The pot's 41.3. He has 15.7. At this point, when we think about his range, what if we bet, what is he going to fold? He's going to fold all of his no-made hands at 16.4%. Is he going to fold his weak pairs? Probably. His middle pairs? Probably. Is he ever going to fold his top pairs or plus? Probably not. If he called all the way with top pair, he's going to call with his ace again. So when we look at his calling range, he's going to be calling 72.7% of the time. He's folding 28% of the time. I don't think we can profitably bet. All he has is 15.7. So, we're betting 15.7 to win what's in the pot. We need him to fold 27% of the time, which I guess we're right at 27%. But again, his folding it doesn't benefit us when he folds the no made hands. And when we look at these pairs, it's the eights, it's the kings. He might not even fold the kings. So I think this would be a bad bet if I bet, and I did make the bet. He called, so bad bet. I'm gonna say he might have called the kings, and we see a flop and see the showdown, and he shows ace 10. Is that in his range? Yep, we have it. Top pair. Makes sense how he plays it. I think it makes even more sense since he had the ace of hearts. He knows that I probably don't have the nut flush draw, but he does. And maybe he's thinking that if a heart comes, he can, steal it away with a big bet, possibly. But a player like this, being loose, being a loose player, I don't think they're going to give up top pair at all. Let's see what I have here. So, you can see called 2 bets from blinds, very wide range, 5-3 offsuit, called 3 bets in position with, ace 7 suited, called 3 bets out of position, ace king, limped and called a raise with 5-3 off. He's loose. He's not going to fold the aces. I do think we should have just folded. I think we should have 3 bet pre-flop. It's possible that he would have folded. And then on the flop, since we didn't raise, I do think we should have just folded. Should have been done with the hand. All right, so this is hand number 1. Let's close out and get hand number 2. Hand number 2 is ace jack offsuit. This is a 10-NL game. So we have a limper and then we have a raise. So the limper is currently playing 13-4. We have 105 hands on him, so with him playing at 13-4, he chose not to raise. So I do think he's probably playing these pocket pairs. He's probably playing some aces like that. Maybe ace 10 suited. Maybe these suited connectors. And it could be all of the suited aces. Or it could just be something like that. Or these suited connectors are questionable. But I do think probably the pocket pairs. Maybe not all of the pocket pairs because he's under the gun. We don't, when we look at his VPIP, early position 16, pre-flop raises 8. He chose to limp. So I do think it's going to be more of these speculative type of hands that he's playing. Nothing to worry about. I think ace jack's near the top of the range. We can raise and he'll probably fold, or if he comes along, he'll probably fold to a C bet, whether or not we hit our ace or our jack. What about this player? This player is 20-10 out of 20 hands. I do think he's going to be tighter, so he's going to have these suited broadways, some of the ace jack, king queen off hands, probably pocket pairs down to maybe 7s or 8s. I don't have any notes on him. I only have 20 hands. We're looking at cutoff raises. So raise from the cutoff. Again, it's just going to be a guess of what he has. So I think we're just going to kind of do something tight like that and see where he goes. We're going to assume that he probably doesn't raise with the rest of these suited small pocket pairs, suited aces. That's 11%. Now with ace jack, we're going to be kind of in the middle, so we can decide what we want to do. Are we going to raise or are we going to fold? Like the other table, we don't have a whole lot of hands on these players, and this guy 105 calls pre-flop 2-bet 16% of the time. If I call, nothing's really suggesting that any of these players are going to call. Maybe the blinds. I mean, we're at 31% VPIP over 13 hands, 41% out of 22 hands for this player. This player is probably not. Raising is definitely going to be a very aggressive play. And versus a cutoff raise, we could probably do that. By raising, we're going to get him heads up more than likely. I think it's probably a toss-up on what we do. I called. I think that's okay. I don't think we can raise ace-jack all the time because I think when we get called, we're going to be way behind. So we called. No one else called behind. So we go heads up versus this range. Now, flop comes down queen 9-5. So queen of hearts, 9 of hearts, 5 of spades. That range doesn't really hit his range much. It hits our range a whole lot harder. So we have those queen jacks, jack 10, 9-10, 9-8, queen 10. We should have all of those hands in his range. The only hand that I think he has in his range are those like ace queen, king queen type hands. So right now, I think we have range advantage on him. But I do think he has the nut advantage because he has queens. I think we would have raised queens. So I think he has queens in his range, but we have possibility of hitting a draw. So he checks, and then it's to us, and I think this is perfectly fine to bet. I do think this would have been, if he bets, I think we could raise his c-bet here, because I think if he c-bets, he's probably going to c-bet ace king, he's probably going to c-bet ace jack, he's probably going to c-bet, of course, ace king, ace queen and king queen, queen jack. I know he's going to c-bet those. So if we get our raise is going to try to get some of those ace king jacks to fold, which I think improves. We buy equity, and if we're called, we have equity. We still have backdoor draws. We've got a weaker backdoor flush draw. I wish I had the ace of hearts instead, but we've got the jack of hearts, and we have a backdoor straight that we could catch. So I think we do have equity. It is going to be aggressive, but with someone right now, I've only seen him c-bet once, so 1 out of 1. He's been in position. I think we could have possibly raised. Now he checks. He missed his c-bet, so I think it is perfectly reasonable to go ahead and make a c-bet, and that's what I did. I bet half pot. Is half pot enough? I'd argue that it might be better to go ahead and do 2/3 pot here to try to get more fold equity. I think half pot looks more like I'm taking a stab at a pot without a hand, and the half pot was just convenience. It's betting smaller. 2/3, I think, starts to represent having a queen or possibly even a 9, or maybe even 10s and jacks. So I bet and he calls. What is he going to check and call with? Well, if he's a tricky player, he's going to check the sets. He's going to check 2-pair if he's a tricky player. But I think maybe sets would have either let out, 2-pair would have let out, and overpairs would have let out, or they would have checked raised. Is my thought. I think that's a lot of players, especially with this wet board. 10 jack is going to have an open-ended straight draw. You have heart draws that are out there. Top pair, I think, is going to bet. So top pair is going to be ace, queen, king, queen, queen, jack. I think they're going to bet. Pocket pair, below top pair, middle pair, weak pair. I think those are going to be hands that probably are going to check. They don't want to bet, get raised, and then have to fold it. So I think those are going to probably be a check call. Flush draw, not sure why he wouldn't have bet those, but let's assign a percentage to say, he's hit 50% of the time. Maybe he would have check called with the flush draws. 50% he would have bet with it. Open-ended straight draw. I do think he would have c-bet, so we'll take those out. The gut shots could have easily check called. 2-card backdoor flush draws could easily check call. So maybe 45% is what he'll check call with. We're at 34%. I mean, not we're behind, but we took a stab at the pot. On the turn card, we're going to hope for a low card. We're going to hope for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to hope for something like that, because it's not going to change who's ahead. And when he checks, we can then fire another bet and actually fire a little bit higher, or a little bit larger, and probably pick up the pot. I think we would get weak pair, middle pair, pocket pair, below top pair to fold at that time. So we've got a plan. The 9 is actually not a great card, because we had these weak pairs in his range, or the middle pairs in his range. I think a 5 would have been a whole lot better if the board pairs. I think a queen could have been okay, but a queen makes it less likely that I actually have a queen. So he checks again. He's doing 9 of clubs. So he checks again. And I think now he's probably going to check everything. He's not going to lead out. I have initiative. And I think what we probably need to do here is just check. The 9 was one of those cards that we didn't, I don't think we wanted to see. Because I think he would have called with a 9. Yeah, 9's in our range too, but we could check behind, and when he checks the river, we could bet at that time to try to pick up the pot to represent that we had the 9. I think that's going to be a little bit better than betting, having him call, and then facing the river decision, especially if he leads into us. I didn't do that. I bet about 2/3 pot, and he calls again. All right, so he has 47 big blinds, pot's 20. I bet 2/3, leaving him with 33. So our pot's going to be 48.7. What is he going to call with? Well, I think he's going to call with 3 of a kind. He's going to call with his top pair. Still, is that right? No. Hold on. Yeah, because we had. Let's take these out. Let's take those out, because he shouldn't have the top pair hands in there. So 3 of a kind's definitely there. He doesn't have the top pair. If we bet again, I think maybe Jackson 10's calls, but the weak pairs are going to fold. I don't think they can withstand it. I think the flush draws are still going to call. Open and straight draws still going to call. I think a gut shot now can just get away from the hand. So he's calling 37%. We're much worse off. I do think the bet was. So the bet we could have checked behind. It didn't improve us. I think that 9 hit is a bad card for us. It's just he had the lead, and then he started checking. We should be suspicious now because he's check called twice. 4 of hearts comes on the river. This hits all of the hearts. He still has, the 9s. He's got the flushes. He's got pocket pair, below top pair. So 10s and jacks. He checks, and at this point, I think our jig's up, because if he called with the 10s and jacks, he's probably going to call again. So he's calling 93%. We're way behind when he calls, and he's going to call so frequently that we should just check behind and take the free showdown. I didn't do that. I bet basically him all in. It should have been him all in, and he does shove, and we have to call 0.6 big blinds, which we were already getting in, and I called. At this point, I think we're going to be losing to the flush or to those 9s. And we could argue that the 9s would have raised at some point in the hand, but you never know some of these players. So he shows ace king, which is actually quite surprising. So I didn't have ace king in his range. He had ace of hearts, king of clubs. He's calling. Why he called, that is completely unknown. So when we go back and look at the hand, we said basically that the ace high, he was going to get rid of all of his ace highs. So let's say he calls with his ace highs here. The 9 comes. Um, he still calls with ace high on here. And if he calls with ace high, he's calling with the weak pair. And then on the river, 4 of hearts, you'd think, he would have folded at some point in the hand. So we don't have it in his range. I think this was just, he must have assumed I'm super aggressive. But it doesn't make sense because I've kind of represented that I could beat at least top pair, or at least I can beat 1 pair hands, and he calls all the way. So we miss this hand. I think we add notes here that he called down with ace king, no pair, no draw. Oops, called top, called down. Called down flop, turn river with ace king, no pair, no draw. So we get that note down, and next time we encounter him, we can look at it, and if we have a queen, let's say we have king queen, queen jack, queen 10 on a board like this, yeah, next time we keep firing because we know he's going to call with ace king. All right, 2 hands that we went through. We got one. We missed the second one. Second one could have been better, but we made a note, and that would allow us to play better against that opponent. So look tomorrow for a few more hands.